Hello, everybody. This is Lena Stagg. I am the owner of the Pit Barbell Club in Evansville, Indiana. My husband and I bought the gym in July of 2020 during a very trying time in our world. We have been in business since 1970 when Dick Connor founded our gym. You can find us at 5221 Oak Grove Road in Evansville. 47715 is the zip code. Our number at the gym is 812-422-0617. And you can get more information about the gym at our website, www.thepitbarbellclub.com. We have the honor of having Dick Connor, founder of the Pit, just prior to 1970 here in Evansville, Indiana. And Dick is still coming into our gym several times a week, and we have the wonderful opportunity to chat with him. And we have a gentleman that reached out to us from Amsterdam, and he is going to be on this recording with Dick Connor and going to ask Dick some questions, some very pointed questions that have to do with his profession, and we think you are going to enjoy this conversation. So, Dick, are you still connected with us?
Yes.
Terrific. And Ronald, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, guys. Well, Ronald, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, and then go ahead and start your questions for the most honored Dick Connor.
Okay, first of all, thank you for having me, of course. I read a lot of Dick's material and Hard Gainer and everywhere, and I got really intrigued in the way he writes. And in the Netherlands, I coach most of the time people who had injuries or post-injuries or have some problems, maybe pain in their shoulders. And I help them to train in a sensible way that they think they, first of all, they could do, but when they train in a more slow way or a more controlled way, and most of the time they get really less pain and less problems and see that they can rid of these problems. So that's why I always like to talk with people like Dick who have also this kind of thinking, and that's why I reached out, and I think it's really nice that I could talk with him, first of all. And so let's start with my first question. I read it first. You were working a lot with powerlifters, and later on you came to realize, or you start training people in a really slow fashion. How did you come up with this, and why did you try it out, and how effective was it?
Well, it's an interesting question, because I, after a period of training for 10 years, started to having surgeries, joint, knees, shoulders, and back then, when they went into that kind of surgery, it didn't work like it does nowadays. They weren't that good. So I suffered a lot because of overtraining, jerking and yanking on weights, showing off and lifting weights and what have you. But I liked powerlifting. When I got into the whole idea of having a gym, it was all by just the time was right. And read about Nautilus, and at that time Nautilus was nothing but a little bitty building down in Florida with Arthur Jones was making machines. Actually, he didn't have any place to make them. It's an incredible story. We don't have time to talk about how he actually got into making the things. But
maybe next time.
It's quite interesting. But when I went down there with a couple of guys, he told us, he says, get in the car out there, I'll talk with you boys. And I was a grown man, and so were the other guys. He said, you boys get in the car out there, I'll talk to you. And he's going around the machine shops where he was making this Nautilus machines, and So to buy one, you had to put down 50% and wait 90 days. That's how Arthur Jones got started, because before, if you know his history, he lost everything he had. But that's how I got started in the business. Now, I had, at that time, was already crippled up. I had chondromalacia of the knee, and I went to a doctor, and the doctor told me to take the kneecap off for that. Well, I thought, take it off, and I can go ahead and do what I could do. And my dad begged me, don't do it. And it was only a few years later that I was at the Cleveland Clinic with another friend of mine, and I heard this doctor tell him we don't take off kneecaps because you lose too much strength in that leg. And I thought, man. Then I had a shoulder surgery that they cut the clavicle bone into to take a bone spur out of, because I done benches like I do maybe 30 sets a week at that time. So my learning was the hard way as to what I believe nowadays. Now, powerlifting is a sport, as you well know. Listen to hear you talk. I had no idea where you would be coming from. I was thinking you were some young guy who wanted to be Mr. Amsterdam or something.
No, I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, so I understand that what I might say to you could help you as we get to these questions you wrote, but I don't know, if you want to start asking me. I wrote down some of the answers I would give, but I don't really need to read anything. I think I can answer anything you ask with a
I think so also.
Logical question, a logical answer. So if you want to ask me any particular thing, if not, I'll just start talking.
Yeah. Okay. No. Let's ask me some questions, Jen. So because why ask? Because you see these days that a lot of in strength training, you see a lot of people need every exercise for every muscle, and when they go down, instead of isolation, say, okay, we go for compounds, of course, but then still they want to hit the muscle from all the angles. So shoulders for shoulder press, bench with a chest press, and every time. So, but I was reading your 22 lessons, of course, and you said a really interesting thing, that a lot of people don't understand the indirect effect.
Right.
What would you like to tell about this? Because I think that's a really interesting thing, and I don't know everything about it, of course, but you said it with a reason, of course. So what do people don't understand about this, and what do you want people to understand about this, if I say it the right way? Well, when weightlifting got to be a big business, strength training, whenever the machines got in, and then they went from machines to other things, but whenever it got to be that way, in my opinion, they do it almost invariably in every field. They complicate it to the place nobody understands anything, and then they sell to these people who do not understand because they complicated it. Now, I used to be a cop, and it's not very popular in America to be a policeman nowadays. No. But I was a police officer, and I run a gym. Yeah. I knew a lot of lawyers, bless their hearts, but they complicate to keep you in the dark. Now, I hope you're following me. And that is now done, in my opinion, in exercise. We call it exercise because we're called a lot of things. I mean, I played basketball till I was 56, full court. Shouldn't have done it. Okay, wow. Yeah. It's terrible what I've done to my body. And I'm Indiana basketball is the biggest thing on the block. Everybody plays it. And when I was a kid, I played it when I couldn't even
get the ball up to the basket. It was a very important part of my life. And I swam laps up till that time, too, just about. And then I was completely almost done.
Yeah.
And but anyway, let's get back to indirect effect.
Yeah.
It was Arthur Jones that explained it, where he explained like you throw a little rock in the water and it makes little ripples. You throw a big rock in the water and it makes big ripples. And he was trying to explain how an exercise that worked a lot of muscle has a lot of indirect effect. And so he would probably have used at that time the squat as the best exercise to work the most muscle.
Yeah.
And then you get the most indirect effect. In other words, I mean, if you do a curl before you do anything else, you won't feel in the chest muscles in the front deltoids what you will feel if you do, say, a bench press and then walk over and do a curl, and you can't hardly do the curl because the muscles of the chest and the front deltoids fail so bad that the biceps can't get hardly a workout.
Exactly.
Now, that's somewhat explaining this indirect effect, but it was Arthur Jones that made it famous, and it was probably, I don't know how familiar you are with Perry Rader and Ironman magazine.
I read about it. Yeah, I read the 20 rep squats and everything, the breathing squats.
Well, Perry Rader, he trained for years and didn't gain at all. He said he trained for 8 years and never got any better. Then he just started doing 3 exercises, and I remember, if I remember right, it was a chin and a press and then a 20 rep squat on Monday.
Yes, exactly.
And he'd rest, and Friday he'd do it again. He said he worked the first 2 exercises. He worked very, not very hard, but on the squat he worked as hard as he possibly could. So he used the squat to get big, and then after that, and he was an extremely honest man. If he had anything that stood out in Perry Rader, it was his honesty. He became a lifting champion of the Midwest in that time and of history, basically caused by the 20 rep squat and what he didn't recognize or at least point out, the indirect effect of that movement. Which I'm not that. I don't like to encourage people to squat unless I can take them through it. There's a better way, and we might get to that. But I mean, that's
maybe that's the next question. I think.
Indirect effect.
Yeah, really interesting. And I think I understand what you mean. Because if you do like a shoulder press or you get really strong on that and a chin up, then of course your chest needs to grow also, because that needs to help and everything. And if you get that's basically what you're saying, right?
Yeah, but it's like there is growth even though you're not working that muscle. I mean, a wrist curl will not have the indirect effect of the squat because it doesn't work as muscle.
Yeah.
So there is something there, and it was a word he come up with. A super brilliant mind, but if you was around him, he was a character. My goodness, he was a dangerous man.
Yeah. I saw a couple clips on the internet.
Is that right?
I said I saw a couple clips from him on internet, and he's interesting. How is he talking? So I think you make it clear what you mean about it. And I think that's when we get to the second question is then what would be because also I was reading in your 21 lessons, most heart gainers can do the best when they do 3 exercises: 1 leg, 1 push, and 1 pull, upper body push and pull, and 1 leg exercise. So what would be, if you can say now, the 3 best exercises for heart gainers or for people to train in this fashion?
Well, first of all, one of the things you brought to my attention was how hard it is to rest long enough between workouts for somebody who likes to lift weights.
Exactly.
If you don't like to lift weights, but you force yourself to do it, you can probably recover. But most guys who like to lift weights want to get back too soon.
Yeah.
Now, I don't believe in. I believe the 3 exercises works, but what I encourage a guy to do, and the best person I train at this time is my nephew's son, who I have had a lot of influence over because he's related to me. But if I, have to listen. I have trained in the last few years, and if I go back further, I trained a lot of wrestlers for a high school that won the state championship many times. Now, it wasn't me. They already had a good program before I was allowed to train them. But a lot of my influence came from training these wrestlers. In fact, one of them was close to the best in the nation this year. He as a college wrestler, and probably if COVID took it all out, he beat an Ohio State guy, and the Ohio State guy beat him, and I'm not sure that one of those guys wouldn't have been, if there was an Olympics representing America in wrestling in the Olympics. His name is Nick Lee. But Nick Lee was good before I got to him, but I did start training him when he was about 13 years old. Now, here, the slow training was by then a part of what I believed, an extreme part. I mean, I really was sold on it because of what I've seen. But to get to answer your question, I believe, I don't care who you are, if you're healthy enough to work out and you want to do it with all you got, and you want to get the most for your money and not risk your health, a slow workout of 5 exercises, and that would be the negative chin, if you can do it, the dip, overhead press would be first, though, because of the order of, from a pushing to a pulling. So when I train, normally when I train guys that are really good, who really want to do it, and I've scared guys away. One workout and they won't even look at me. I mean, they will hide from me.
They don't want to see you again.
No, it just terrifies people. They think it's going to hurt them. I don't never hurt anybody with this stuff. The only thing that hurts is while you're doing it. Well, overhead press, negative chin dip. Now, here's the 2 that may be controversial to you. A box deadlift or Romanian deadlift, done super slow, as I shouldn't be using that word, but done slow, especially paying attention to the turnaround on that deadlift. Turn around correctly. But try to get from that Romanian deadlift, or I call it a box deadlift, to the leg press immediately. It's the best pre-exhaust for your hip and thigh that you can do. If you can get there quick enough, and of course that's almost impossible, but as quick as you can, that combination to me, and that number of movements, those 5 movements, the only thing of it is, and the problem is, how do you get yourself to rest anywhere from 5 to 12 days? Somewhere, and if you're a 17-year-old full of dynamite, you might recover in 3 days. But you don't lose it, you just recover. You're worried about something that the body does not give up. I train Randy Dickens is a guy I trained in 1968, or maybe even 7, and I still train him. And he trains basically this workout. He does a pullover and a pull down. A pullover is still a great movement if you have one of them. You know, they got several of them here.
Nice.
But anyway, I still train him, and he trains about every 12th day, and he gains all the time.
It's unbelievable.
So, yeah, but that's hard to do, you know. And I know you also mentioned that you do some wrestling or whatever.
Grappling, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Mm-hmm. So yeah, exactly. And that's also with the sparring. Of course, you did the wrestling when you were younger. You know, the sparring also uses energy, of course.
Right. But you know, I really believe that a deadlift is a really important exercise if it's done correctly. And I'm not, you know, when you do a 2-minute correctly done slow movement, 10 up, 10 down, turn around like you should at the bottom, you won't hurt yourself if you're healthy, and your back will get super strong. And I mean, it is a joke in this fitness world to tell me that you do abdominal work to strengthen your low back. I mean, to support it, that is that important.
Yeah.
I mean, a negative chin up will work the abdominals of death.
Exactly.
You know, and almost every movement that I mentioned in there will do that. The box deadlift or Romanian deadlift.
Yeah.
You know, it's but they keep telling people they got to do the core, and they don't even talk about low back.
True.
You know, it's I don't get it, but anyway, that's where I'm at when it comes to them.
And exactly, I think it's because what you said in the beginning. In every industry, people complicate things to make money.
Right.
And if it's complicated, then people think, oh, this guy knows about it, so he's smart, so I need to pay him or whatever, or maybe sell some supplements or sell stuff. Yeah, and one thing about the negative chin. So what kind of, also 10 seconds down, or?
Yes.
With the tempo?
Yeah, just keep it all 10 seconds, no problem. You know, negative work actually started over in Europe for physical therapy, I understand. So it came from over there, you know, and then Jones done a lot of research and what have you. And again, even there when, you know, Jones, I think, was honest, and he, but when it got to the place where money was involved, it became hard for him sometimes to tell the truth. I mean, it just gets that way. Money just confuses, and people being, you know, I mean, most people in America believe they're good. You know, I don't believe anybody's good. I wouldn't have been a good cop if I'd have thought people were good. And I don't think I'm good. So I don't trust me, and I don't want, you know, I don't trust the other people that's selling me something. I've got to believe that it's hard to be, you know, tell a guy, no, don't buy this car. It's out of honesty. You know, it's just hard to do. And this field is a field of, you can really confuse people. I watch it in here. You know, the guys, some of them, I mean, what they'll do. But listening to your questions and what you're doing, I want to salute you. I just think you got the right attitude about what you're doing to help people. So
it's really important. Yeah, no, thank you. No, that's true, and that's why I was reaching out to you, because I think you got a lot of lessons for people to know, and I can learn a lot, and I just want to learn, and really interested, because I just go back to the last question. What you say, you can do this in 5 and 12 days. So if you have these wrestlers who you're training, and of course they have their training sessions with their sparring. Is the frequency still like this? So, like me, I do 2 times a week Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Mm-hmm.
And do you still use the strength training in this way? Because I see a lot of people, when they do other sports, of course, they think differently about strength training. Oh, I need to watch out that I don't do too much, or I see when I do like strength training too close to my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, that I can maybe tweak my lower back. So how need people with doing martial arts watch out, or how they need to try to incorporate this? What do you think, or what do you want to tell about this?
Well, again, the wrestlers that I trained, I no longer do that. I don't have any, but there was a time with my own physical condition when I sold the gym and I got out, and then there was another time where I didn't think I was going to make it. I had a tumor taken out of my stomach. I thought I was going to probably be over with for me, and I gave up all the people I was training. And since then, I've been able to come back and train again. I train people, but the gym had moved, and all the other problems in America that have happened. But again, I just kind of, in general, when I was training the modern day wrestlers, who they were state champions, and Indiana has a good history of wrestling, and the Big Ten is the dominating wrestling of all schools in America. They're not the dominating in football, they're not the dominating in basketball, but in wrestling, Penn State's the number one, and then, of course, there are a lot of Olympic champions come out of there. Their coach was an Olympic champion. But in training those wrestlers, I just trained them in general, once a week. I don't know, I didn't know how to determine if this guy needed a workout or not, because he was wrestling. And but if he's not gaining, and I keep a record, in a book, like you should. I knew what you got the last time. So if we wasn't gaining, I'd have to ask myself, what's going on?
Yeah.
But but when you talk about a 16 or 17-year-old kid, you talk about somebody a little different than the average person.
All the hormones are going everywhere still.
Yeah, so I just, I didn't pay a lot of attention to recovery, but I think you in your case, at your age, and also that you're doing that you do need to pay attention to it, and do the hard thing, which is go maybe a day or two longer and see what happens. And I know that takes more discipline for a guy that likes to train than a guy that don't like to train, and it's evident you like to. And so it does. It takes a lot of, and of course, here's something you never ask anything about. I'm 83. In fact, I had all my teeth pulled out about 10 days ago and false teeth put in. Well, that takes a lot out of you. And you got COVID-19 here, and
also stress and everything.
Yeah, but I do, and I've had some terrible injuries in my low back. I've got a collapsed disc. I got a herniated disc, and I know this from MRIs. But I can no longer train at all when it comes to moving anything. I have to do a static on it. Now, of course, we did not believe a few years ago in the whole field of weight training that it works as hard as anything in the world. I mean,
I was reading also about, and you're talking about time static contractions with the 30-30-30. Yeah.
Well, I don't do the 30-30-30. I do more or less, and I don't want to say too much about names because I know how touchy they get. But when I'm training other people with statics, and again, statics are really, really excellent for somebody that's had injuries. I go a minute 40, like if you're doing a pull down, get it in the hardest position and hold it for a minute 40 before we ever increase weight.
Yeah.
That's what I do. And so, you can do it, 30, like you said, 30.
Sometimes you hear a little bit far away. It feels like you're a little bit far away in the telephone sometimes.
Oh, okay. Okay, did you?
That's okay.
Okay, did you?
No, I heard it was 1 minute 40. You said with the pull down.
Yeah, on a static.
Yeah.
I do basically a minute 40, and that's for myself and other people that have had injuries. I use the minute 40, but statics are really super. I
use them sometimes. No, I use them also sometimes with people with injuries, and they work pretty well. I do them with the shoulder press or with bands sometimes, and people, they think they can't do a kind of training, and in this kind of way they can. So it's really nice that you talk about them. I think it's really important to hear and understand about this.
Yes, it's the only way I can train.
Nice. Yeah. So on every exercise. So do you want to tell how your training looks like? Do you think that's interesting for people to hear who have maybe some kind of problems like this?
Well, yeah, I can tell you what I do. I can tell you why I do it. If you lose me, tell me.
Yeah, okay, try.
There's one other thing I got to say, because if we have to quit here, I don't want you to miss this either. Okay. I don't know if you're familiar with Egoscue. There's a book called Pain Free, a book called Pain Free by Pete Egoscue. Pain Free is the name of the book. Yep. And the guy that wrote it is Pete Egoscue.
Pete Egoscue, okay.
That has allowed me to be able to train.
Wow.
Because I've been told and by a surgeon 100 miles from here in Louisville, Kentucky, where it's a spine clinic, that he said, you're going to have the bone spurs removed from your neck.
Wow.
And I've had my back so bad that I literally couldn't get out of bed. The multifidus muscle that Arthur Jones spoke of, that was developed primarily by his low back machine, that muscle that of the spine that freezes you up so that you can't hardly walk, to protect you when you hurt yourself. I've been that way, where I'd have to, when I'd hurt myself so bad, and I just kept doing it. And
wow.
So I couldn't get home fast enough to get in bed, because I knew I was going to be there for 2 or 3 days. But my brother-in-law was a football and wrestling coach. He's in a wrestling Hall of Fame in Indiana. And he told me about Egoscue and came and helped me. But that book...
Now you're a little bit far away again.
Okay, maybe...
You're back, yeah.
Let me go to a certain area of this room where I'm at and see if it's any different.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Is that better?
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. Sometimes you just were far away. Now you're here. I just let you know when it happens.
Okay. But anyway, he introduced me to that, and Agoscu has different chapters on whatever body parts you got bothering you.
Nice.
So every day I do Agoscu. And it's really an interesting book. I mean, the number one thing they do for the low back, and nobody would think you would do for your low back. You people that, that have maybe worked in that area may not think it's unusual. They may even suggest it. But I do this every day, or I couldn't do anything. That's how beat up I am.
Wow.
I never was interested in almost anything except when I started lifting weights. I was interested in basketball when I was young, to the point I got to be 16 years old. Everybody quit playing basketball, got a car and got a girlfriend. I wanted to still play basketball.
Wow.
And then I went on and joined the Navy when I was 17, and that's another story. But without the Agoscu, which involves stretches, for instance, the headaches, I had these terrible headaches. That's the reason I went to the spine clinic. The guy said, you got to have the bone spurs taken off. Sent me to another doctor in the clinic, and he confirmed it. He said, you are going to have them. I came back home, and part of the Agoscu I was leaving out because I thought it would cause me problems. I started doing, and these headaches I was having every night went away. And I got a whole list of things that I've corrected with it. So I do encourage, anybody.
I'm going to read it.
to look up Pain Free by Pete Agoscu.
Yeah.
But I do that in order to do, and this is getting back to what you asked about strength training, what I do. What I done the last time I worked out, and I shouldn't have worked out. Don't tell anybody I did because I just had my teeth pulled, and I'm 83 years old. I had my teeth pulled 7 days before. My wife would die if she knew that I had worked out because I had no business. But you know how hard it is to go without working out. You understand that. That's the reason you asked about recovery, going that long. How hard it is. Well, I worked out, but I didn't do it from one exercise to the next as quick as I could. I left some time in between, but this is the same workout I would do even if I'd done it faster, which I highly recommend. One exercise to the next as quick as you can get there. It's all a part of making you have that motor that makes you physically a better athlete or whatever. But I started off with the chest press. No, wait a minute. This day I didn't. I started off with a static pullover in the very bottom position. I had to pull over all the way down where I was like on a roll with been squeezed all the way in. I done it a minute 40 on the pullover. Then I went to with a little rest, like I said, went to the chest press, which I done it, the same thing. I happened to get all my times both of these days, even after having all my teeth pulled a week before. Then I went over and I done a static lateral raise where I'm just holding it out to the sides, for a minute 40.
Yeah.
Then I done the curl. I can't do a leg press because every time I do, my back goes out. But I can do a hyperextension where I hold it at the very top. Or I can do the Pit has a MedX low back machine. I can do it, but not quite as comfortable. I do have damage to my prostrate where I hurt it on a bicycle when I was about 28 years old, and I have nerve damage there, so I got to be careful with that. But But the other day I done a hyperextension where I held it for a minute 20 is all I got. And then I went to the leg extension where I got a minute 40 with the weight I use on it. And then I done an abduction on the MedX abduction machine. And that was my workout. Yeah. My low back, I have to be careful with it. But yeah. I'm telling you, I honestly don't think I could do anything without a GOSCU. I mean, I have got my body so much straighter. I mean, people will say, boy, you sure got good posture. I've been told 20 times in the last couple of years, you sure are straight. Well, old people get crooked.
True. And you see, they lean over a bit.
Right. Well, the muscles pulling them. You know, these muscles are pulling you in. They're shortening. You're losing your flexibility. And
the extensors getting weaker, extensor muscles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you lose the arch in your low back. When you lose that arch in the low back, when you get, and I sit in a police car for 25 and a half years with a gun on my side, which ain't good for you either, you know. But everybody probably has a job that's going to affect them in a bad way. But that's what I done, but I couldn't do the workout without the GOSCU.
That's a really interesting. I think people who are interested in this kind of stuff, training with people with injuries, let's read it, right? Let's read it and learn from the book.
Yeah. I know people think when you get old, they don't, you know, at my age, it's hard to convince young people that I know anything. And it's guys like you that have read Hard Gainer that, you know, and I still keep contact with Bob Whalen some, you know. You've read his stuff?
Yeah, I have almost the whole series at home. So I like to read it. I like to just grab a couple and just read, and then you never know what kind of tips or insights you get from the material, right?
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right. In fact, you know, Doug McGuff, all his stuff is good reading. Of course, Art Jones's stuff is all older. He changed completely from, you know, he did not believe at all what he believed later, especially about the amount of workout, you know, he got to saying. He said in his very latest years that some people need as much as 3 weeks to recover.
Yeah, I read it. He said some people need 1, most people need 2 or something, and even people need 3. Or I read it also about it. Right. And also the amount of exercises were also way down than what he first read. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So because we are talking about routines, because I think a lot of people like to talk about routines. So I also asked you a question like, so if you have a person who wants to train at home in this kind of fashion, and he has some rings to do chin-ups and dips and some push-up handles and maybe some dumbbells and maybe a back something to do a back extension on a static stiff leg deadlift, you know, with bands or something. How would you do the routine then? How you first pronounce, right, with the 5 exercises? How would you let this person train? You know what I mean? Did I pronounce it right?
I think you can do, you know, if you got the interest, a really good workout at home. Now, I got a daughter that I've trained off and on. I've got more than one daughter, but the one I trained off and on. But I can't convince her to, you know, she don't want to work out now since she has to. It's a long story, but she could train at home. I've tried to show her what to do. But first of all, you know, if you can do, not everybody can do a chin-up.
True.
But they can do, if you can fix a bar where you can do a pull-up while you're laying, if you can understand me and you're familiar with it, you lay on your back and pull yourself up.
Yeah,
on a bar.
They call it Australian rolls, I think, in the calisthenics word. Yeah.
Yeah.
Australian pull-ups or something. Yeah.
And if you can't do a push-up, you can do what is called, maybe not politically correct, but a woman push-up. But you can do a negative push-up where you let yourself down in 10 seconds and then climb back up and then do a negative down. Or you can do a static where you go down only where you're comfortable, and you can develop incredible strength in that area of your body with that. A lateral raise against the door, where you push against the door side, you're standing in the door, is incredible shoulder exercise. I mean, it will blow your mind. I mean,
true.
And if you could do just those 3 exercises with a hyperextension, and then immediately do a super slow squat where you don't lock out at the top. My goodness, you kill yourself. If you got, those 5 exercises will just eat your lunch if you do them the hardest way possible. And, I mean, jerking and yanking on weights and carrying on, I mean, every gym's that way. I mean, you don't have to teach anybody to jerk and yank on a weight. You got to teach them to do it, but you got to do a lot of teaching to get them to move slow with a weight.
Yes.
And that tells me right there that it's the right thing, even if I didn't know it already, because you don't get to be a brain surgeon by going to school and studying like Dick Connor did.
No.
You got to. It's hard work, and in exercise, Arthur Jones said it right again. Just find the hardest exercise and do them the hardest way possible, and that's the truth. And if he said, do the X amount of movements, and if that don't work, do less. And that's the hardest thing to do for a person that likes to work out. But for the other group, they don't like to work out. They come to the gym, they want the results, but they ain't going to do it either without an education.
No.
I know it's hard to convince people. I mean, I heard a guy say the other day, he said super or slow training will hurt you. I've never heard anybody doing slow training, never.
I mean, you can hurt with everything, right? You can hurt with everything if you do it the wrong way.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's also you can also hurt when you walk, right? If you don't watch and don't look in front of you, right? You can hurt yourself.
Exactly. Right.
So but that's the problem also. People like to sometimes reject stuff just because it feels too hard or too difficult, or there are not a lot of people who talk about it, so that then it shouldn't be right or something. And for the time on the tension on every exercise, you always do the 1 minute 40. Is that your golden rule, or is?
Well, McGuff said, when you get to a certain strength and you quit gaining, then you got to go down in time under load.
Yeah.
And so I believe that's true, and I have a couple of guys which I'm now doing that with. I'm taking them down to 1:20. But I doubt that they ever should go any lower. If it's a person, I've got a guy that's an outstanding football player that I trained, and he will play college football if he so desires. He's quick as lightning. His time under load, as you know, would be lower because the more fast twitch muscle fiber you have, the lower your time under load should be. But I'm training mostly average people, and I don't worry a lot about that. One of the men I train, which will be here in just a little bit, I've trained him, I guess, 30 years, and he is super, super strong for his age. He's he's well into his 50s, and but we only do 4 exercises now on him, and all of them are done with a machine. I don't do any barbell training with him at all, and he's had some knee problems in his life, and he was a modern-day football player and wrestler, but he's really, really strong. And again, I got a little bit off the subject there, but
no, that's okay. That's okay.
Time under load is something I just really haven't got people down to much lower than a minute 40. Although I am going to do a couple of guys at a minute 20 and see what happens, you know. But I think it belongs to the fast people, the low times, and maybe down even to a minute or lower if you're, you know, of that ilk, if you're born that way with all that fast twitch. You know, the guy that's really strong. And we've had really strong people here, you know, as you would. I can't give you much of a good answer on that.
No. I think you make a good answer. So till what time you have? Because then we need to know when we need to wrap it up.
Well, I got a guy. They'll be in here about normally about 3.
Okay. So should I do just one more question and then wrap it up? Is that a good thing?
Yeah, he's going to do one more question. Sure, anything.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I think the last question is, what kind of life lessons do you want to share with people, younger people, what you talked about with my age who are rejecting this kind of information? What do you want them to know and understand in life or in general or in strength training? What do you want to tell them?
Well, you know, that is something that might get you in trouble and me both, because I'm going to tell you what I think.
Okay.
I was in an elite part of the Army at one time, and I was kicked out. Place I ought to stand. But anyway, I've been in my life. I was a very godless man, and I know that where you're from, it used to be a God-fearing kind of a people, and then it drifted completely away, as I understand. A lot of theologians come out of that area of the world. But I would suggest to a young person, because I spent so many years getting in so much trouble, divorced. I was divorced from a woman who had every right in the world to divorce me because of the way I was. I had a terrible anger problem. And a guy walked up to me one time, and I thought I was something that I wasn't. But a guy walked up to me and handed me a book called The Holiness of God. He just walked up. He was one of my power lifters, and he stuck it in my hand. And so the book was written by a guy named R.C. Sproul. I would recommend for a young person to read that book too, The Holiness of God by R.C. Sproul. It changed my life, and
nice.
I'll go. That's as far as I'll go with it. But
no, perfect. No, that's good. You know, that's something. If that's gonna help people, then it's great, right?
Well, it's worth reading that book. It's so interesting, and of course, getting back to the pain-free book. You know that people that have. I've recommended it to hundreds of people, and have heard all kind of people that are willing to do it have had joint problems. I mean, I have helped so much of my body with that stuff. I just cannot give it the credit due it.
Nice.
And then, of course, your last question there, that book really, I bought the book and give it away because it's interesting even if you don't believe it.
Nice. I'm going to read it, I'm going to buy it, and I'm going to learn from it. Yeah, first of all, because you need to coach people again, I think, thank you so much for your time and for your knowledge.
It was good to talking with you. It really was.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And and hope my English was good enough and understandable.
It was very understandable. We were worried about that, but no, you've done quite well. I don't hear worth a nickel, you know.
Okay.
Well,
that's nice. Yeah.
Dick, as always, it's fabulous to hear all of your wisdom and hear from all of your experiences. And Ronald, you are terrific with your questions. Outstanding. We might have to do like another one of these.
Why not? This works pretty well, I think, with the call, how we did it, right? Yes.
I think it worked out terrific. Good job, Dick, and good job, Ronald.
Thank you, both of you, and I wish you a really good day and a good weekend, and we keep in touch. Thank you so much.
And that was a great interview with Dick Connor and Ronald from Amsterdam. Thank you so much for listening to our interview today. This is Lena Stagg, the owner of the Pit Barbell Club in Evansville, Indiana. We have been in business since 1970 when Dick Connor founded our gym. You can find us at 5221 Oak Grove Road in Evansville. 47715 is the zip code. Our number at the gym is 812-422-0617. And you can get more information about the gym at our website, www.thepitbarbellclub.com. And if you come in and visit us, just tell us that you heard the interview, and we will give you a free day pass and interview of our lovely gym. We have 10,000 square feet of gym surface and over 175 machines. You will love us. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to meeting you.